Guys, how's it going? So in this video we'll look at finishing the send mail functionality for our application. So as usual, I have booted up my virtual machine, which is the Homestead, and if you're using Homestead, it's just easy. Just fire up Homestead resume or vagrant up or something like that, and once it's up and running, go back here and go to your local host or the host name or the name host, type it here, and you should be able to see this page. Now, original page is this, and if you click on send mail, because we haven't really worked on the receive mail or the queue mail, but we have configured our send mail view, and now it's our next step is to really finish the controller method, which is the send mail. So this is able to send an email. So in order to do so, what I've done is I have opened up my target email account, which is going to be this account. So I'll be sending email from my app to this account, and we'll be having a look at the results set like in real time. And let's open up the editor of our choice, which is in my case going to be Sublime Text. And what we want to do is let's take a look at the routes file. The routes we've set up a resourceful route, which is this key mail is listening to this key, and we've got another post method which is this route mail/send mail, and it fires up the same name controller method. So we can try to open up our mail controller, and in our mail controller we've got all the standard CRUD based methods. These are the resourceful methods created by Laravel for us by default, and right at the bottom I've got send mail method, which we have created ourselves, and we are going to work in this method. So very first thing we're going to do is let's just die and dump everything here, and hopefully we will find out that this controller method is listening, this form is submitting to this controller method. So as you can see, it's popping up error message because I haven't really entered any data. So let's just say Zebra Design Studios at gmail.com, and subject would be, let's just say hello world, and I'm gonna say hello they, and let's just I don't know, we don't need to format it really, but we can just play around a little bit, and then try to send it. When we send it, you can see it has appended the h1 tags and the carriage return and end of the line for us, and that's the job of CK editor, which is the rich text editor for the web. And that's our underscore token, the CSRF token, and email address, and the subject and the message. So our request is dumping all these variables, which means the correct controller method and the correct route, they're both working fine. So we can just get rid of this, and what we're going to do is we're going to run a check here, although our check is being done through the form validation class, but we can still do our own check. And let's just say if request if the request has an email, or let's just say if request has message and request has an email, then we want to do something. And what we want to do is basically we want to quickly create some variables and populate all the data coming from the form in those variables. So request, let's just say here I'm going to call it email, which is going to be request and then I'm just going to copy this and just say subject, and I'm going to store the subject from the request in this variable, so I can use it just by saying subject rather than saying request subject, and the message. Now we've got all these three things set up. We can also use built-in PHP functions to use the date timestamp, or we can use I'm trying to think what all the information that we can pick up from the request headers, like for example the IP address or UUID or any other information which you think might be able to identify the sender. And we can persist our database, which we won't be doing in this application, but usually before you send an email you want to persist your database, and you want to create a copy of all this mail before talking to the mail servers. So just in case if the mail fails, or if the mail is lost, or if the server is down, or some technical issue, you might be able to queue the email in the future. So but right now we won't look into that. We just want to really go ahead and send an email. So we're going to be using Laravel's built-in mail facade, which basically offers a bunch of methods, and the methods are: you can send an email, it's called mail send, or mail receive. Laravel is usually very the conventions and the naming conventions are very simple and very straightforward. The first thing that pops up into first word that pops into in your mind, it usually would be that would be the case. So you can queue an email, or you can so a bunch of other methods, but let's just focus on send for now. And what this does is basically it takes a lot of parameters. So the very first parameter is if you want to use any external view file. So in our case it's going to be mail dot, I think it's called new mail. Is that what we created last time? So we go into resources, views, mail, new mail, and that's going to extend the email. So that's what we're going to be using. So new mail, a new mail is going to extend an email, and here we are passing our body array variable that contains our message. So that's the format of our email, HTML5 email. And the next thing it takes is an array, which basically is you can give the variable, which is an array variable. Also, it takes a lot of different things here, but one of the thing is the content. So you can store different kind of things. So I'm going to create an array variable like this, and I'm going to store my message, and I'm going to give the same key, which is message. So our message variable is stored here, and the key is message, so we can just retrieve it by calling body and then the key, which is in this case is right here. So body and the key always escape these variables, because the user is filling up the thing here, which is all the tags and everything else. We want to keep it exactly the same way it comes from the form. So we must escape it, because just in case if there's a hidden script or something like that and stuff like that. So and then we'll call it, we'll give it a variable which will be body variable in this case. And the next thing it takes is a closure, which so like so. And the closure, we need to pass the object, which is the message, which is not really this message variable. So instead of creating this variable, we can just, rather than confusing with that, we can just cut it and just paste in here. So it's not like there's no naming conflict or anything like that. So we've got our body, and we've got our email subject and the body. And this message variable is different from this one. This is the object, the instance of that's been passed into. And then we can use some of these the variables we have just created. We can use let's just say we can use the request, and we can also use the subject. And the next thing I want to do is basically we're going to use this message. What's going on? So message, and then we can do message to, which is who we are sending this to. And it requires, obviously it requires an email, so you can say request email, or you can also say here directly as an email. That way you will be able to use this variable, whichever way is convenient. Since we are already, so I guess we don't really need these two, so you can just get rid of that and request email, and then you can add, and then you can just add a subject. So subject is usually going to be your subject, I would say so. Now you can also before you, this is the minimal mail function, to use the functionality of mail. This is the minimal parameters, the list of parameters or the requirement, but you can always expand it. Now you can always say to, and then you can say from, and in here you can give the name, and also you can give the email address. So I'm just gonna say, let's say no reply at mailerapp.com, and then the name could be mailer app service, mailer service, mailer app, auto mailer, something like that. Yeah, anyway, and so no reply mailerapp.com. And what we haven't discussed so far, we need to discuss that, but before that I'm just gonna finish this this method so we can come back to it in a minute. So I'm gonna flash a success message that if the mail has gone through, and I'm gonna say mail sent successfully, and then we can just return redirect back. That's enough for now, because although I would like to be explicit about where we're going back to, so we can just go back to mail. Never ever use return redirect back if someone has hijacked your sessions, and if the attack is coming from the attacker side, return redirect back can set you back to their side. So there's a little bit of a flaw here, but being explicit can be very, very safe, because this is a route stored in your routes file rather than using a browser's back and forward function. But anyway, so we're using this facade here, we're using this facade here, mail facade here in the session, so make sure to import them on the top. But if you're using, I guess, PHP Storm, it should import those facades for you, auto import. But I'm using Sublime Text, and I suppose the fully qualified class name import, I don't think there's any plugin available as of today. If there is any, let me know, and I'll be happy to use it. So when I save it, it should be auto import these classes for me. Then what I wanted to talk to you about is, if you go to config folder and then go to mail, here is where you can do all your mail settings, and these are the settings out of the box. For example, all of these settings, you'll notice there is a env function, which basically takes all these values from your env file. This is your environment configuration, and it has here, it's got mail driver, mail host, mail port, username, password, and encryption. Now I haven't specified any, So it'll take some default values. For example, mail driver would be SMTP, and your mail host is Mailgun. Now Mailgun is a pretty good service. You can also use Mailtrap, which is basically which is basically for development and testing, and the default port is set to 587, but it may be a different port depending upon which service you're using and what kind of port they have exposed, and your from address and the name. Now in our application we have defined from and the name, so it's going to override those things for us. But if there is if you want to set like permanently, this is not coming from env configuration, it's coming from the facade, so you can just set up here directly, and that way you don't need to enter this again and again and again. But you can always set this one as the base mail, and then this one you can override if you want to expose it. And then, because for example your internal emails within your company, you may want to give your email address, but for external emails, sometimes if it's just a auto reply, then you don't want a reply back. So, and the username will come from env file. This is TLS encryption. That's pretty standard. You have to follow the level of encryption your mailing service provider is currently they require, and you have to follow the same, otherwise you can't use their API. And your username and password. Now we won't be making any changes in this configuration. All our variables will come from the .env file. So in my case, the mail driver is going to be SMTP, and I'm going to be using smtp.gmail.com. For testing purposes, I recommend you go ahead and create a Gmail account and then test it following the same settings as me, and enter your username and the password. Your username is the username without @gmail.com, just the username and your password. And for security reasons and privacy, I'm just gonna hide my password. That way, anyway, you don't want to know that. So give me a second and I'll do that thing, and then I'll get back to the video. Okay, so I've just updated my env file, which I'm not gonna open. I've added my I've updated my username and the password, so I suppose it should be all working now, and I'm getting messages from people, so just ignore them for now. Now this is our we're actually sending a success message here. We're setting up a session variable called flash message, so flash message, but we haven't really rendered it in our view. So let's open up our view, which is basically this one, and we've got here, if there are any errors, then display this. We're just gonna copy this thing and let's just put it on top of the form, like let's say here, and we're gonna call it, if the session has flash message, then we're gonna get rid of this and this, and let's just change the color to green. So we're gonna say alert success, and we're gonna say here is that how we do it? I kind of forget sometimes because things change so quickly these days. Yeah, so we basically have to do a session get command. So session get, and that should be able to give us the session. I suppose it takes a key rather than a variable. So session get this and strong and should be alright. So this is how we're going to flash the message, and if there's no message, then it won't bother us. So I think we are almost done. So let's just go ahead and test it out. So I'm gonna refresh, and let's type my email address. I have just typed it recently, so I'm just gonna select that, and I'm gonna say hello world, and let's just give it a, this is the first email from So we're gonna just be a little bit let's just try to decorate the Comic Sans and heading, and the color should be, I don't know what color you like, so I usually stick to like light colors or on a lighter background. That's fine, you know. So that's the background actually, but how about this one? Ooh, it doesn't look so good here. So it's good to have fun sometimes, you know. Okay, never mind. So we're gonna be sending a bunch of you know, some string, bunch of characters, and there are some tags, HTML tags, because we want to confirm like it's working as an HTML, you know, HTML5 email. So this is our information, and let's just send it. And it says it doesn't know what the subject variable is, so that's good for us because we can fix it here. So it doesn't understand what are you talking about the subject, because we've deleted those variables. So let's just get rid of that. All we need is a request, and here we're gonna extend the request. We're gonna open up the requests bag, and hopefully now it should like it, and hopefully we'll get an email from MailRap instantly. Now with the Google, with the Gmail webmail service, so we've got the confirmation mail sent successfully, and I still don't see anything here because it'll refresh itself in a second. So with the okay, so now we are here. Okay, let's open up the email first, and we've got. So I sent this email from a different email address, and see the email is exactly the same. So the rendering engine, the browser renders exactly the way we have sent from here. And if you look at the source tag of that, if I just copy this thing, I don't know if it's clear in the instead of pasting, I'm just reloading. Sorry. So just there's no paste here. Copy. Okay, so if I just added this, for example, what was the color? This color. And if I look at the source tag, source, I don't know if it's very clear, but I don't think you can see, but you can see in your app. And when you look at the source, it will put these h1 tags and some CSS, and that's what renders all the HTML5 emails on your devices, on mobile and everything else. So it's got embedded HTML inside. Now it would be cumbersome to do all this manually, so we've got a rich text editor, and we want to send this. But remember to escape, because I don't know, it's always safe. And anyway, it's a plain text, so it's better to escape. We don't want to inject something unwanted code. So this is what mail send does for us, and it's working. So I encourage you to go ahead and test this out. Now, one thing Gmail has recently changed, and it's that you have to authenticate if you want to use the service from external website. So you want to give permission to your web app to use this to be able to authenticate and use your account to be able to send the email. There's something they have changed, so I've already done that thing. So if you have any errors, or if it's not working because SMTP transport it's throwing some exception, so just try to authenticate and verify for your external app, and it should be all good then. And that's it for the send mail, and I'll see you in the next video for the receive email and queuing the emails. This email has been sent instantly, but while it was still being sent, the request was still running, and that's not good for our application. So we want to queue the emails, so the request will finish instantly, and user can go ahead and do something else while we can queue the emails, because sometimes you can have like 100,000 emails in 1 hour. So depending upon what time of the day and what time of the week, sometimes most of the emails come during the day, and you want to process them like, you know, on a case-to-case basis, and but you can't hold the user. You can't really hold the user from doing something else. So let them do something else, and you can queue them, and system will process them as the resources are available. So that's it for this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.